Good morning, everyone, and thank you for choosing Financial Insights today. Every day, our goal is to provide you with a thorough and knowledgeable analysis of the most relevant financial news to help you navigate the complex economic landscape. Let's begin our daily review. Financial News, August 4, 2023. Market Highlights. U.S. and European equity futures, along with Asian shares, have seen a rise ahead of the U.S. non-farm payrolls report. Contracts for the S&P 500 and Nasdaq 100 indexes gained in Asia trading, reversing minor losses from the previous day. The boost in futures was supported by a 9% surge in after-hours trading for Amazon.com Incorporated after robust results. Apple Incorporated saw a nearly 3% drop in post-market trade due to revenue expectations falling short. In the Euro Stoxx 50 index, equity futures rose around 0.4% in Asian trading, providing support after 3 consecutive sessions of declines. Stocks in Japan, South Korea, and Australia all edged higher. The mainland China and Hong Kong equities saw significant gains, thanks to signs of official support for the private sector. The People's Bank of China pledged to step up monetary support for the economy and help banks control liability costs after meeting with executives from the property industry. The Treasury market continued its slide, and longer-dated Treasuries are on track for their worst week in 2023. Yields on benchmark 10-year Treasuries were relatively unchanged in Asian trading, following a 10 basis points rise on Thursday, setting a fresh 9-month high. Australian and New Zealand 10-year bond yields also climbed around 7 basis points, mirroring the selling pressure in Treasuries. The Bloomberg gauge of the dollar remained mostly unchanged after a 1% increase earlier this week. Financial Insights. In the currency market, the Australian dollar held early gains after the country's central bank revised its inflation forecasts, indicating that interest rates may have to remain higher for a longer period. Notable figures in the financial world have expressed their positions on Treasury bonds. Bill Ackman has a sizable short position on 30-year Treasuries, viewing it as a hedge against higher long-term rates on stocks and as a standalone bet. Bill Gross and Warren Buffett also weighed in on the bond market, with Gross being overall bearish on 10-year yields and Buffett indicating continued buying of Treasury bills. Elon Musk endorsed short-term T-bills, describing them as a no-brainer. Future Outlook. A report on Thursday revealed resilient U.S. demand for workers, with separate numbers showing the most significant increase in productivity since 2020, dampening labor costs. The government's employment data is expected to show the U.S. added 200,000 jobs in July, representing a strong historical advance. Market analysts express optimism that an imminent recession is unlikely, which reduces downside concerns about corporate earnings. However, the potential for a rise in bond yields may put pressure on the stock market's valuation multiple. Global Market Overview. The steepening of the yield curve continues since the Bank of Japan's surprise policy tweak, with 2-year yields 71 basis points higher than those on the 10-year note. In other news, oil prices rose as Saudi Arabia extended its unilateral production cut by another month and hinted at deeper reductions, adding to inflationary pressure. Market Overview. The U.S. dollar remains relatively stable, consolidating its weekly gains, as the USD index holds steady around 102.50. Market participants are closely watching the July jobs report from the U.S., which includes non-farm payrolls and wage inflation data, as well as the Statistics Canada labor market data. Early Friday, U.S. stock index futures are trading positively, indicating an upbeat tone. U.S. economic data. Factory orders in the U.S. rose 2.3% in June, and the weekly initial jobless claims came in at 227,000 for the week ending July 29, matching market expectations. The ISM Services PMI edged lower in July but remained above 50, with the employment index component signaling a loss of momentum in the service sector's job growth. Before proceeding with our analysis, we would like to remind you that your support is very important to us. If you enjoy this video and find our content helpful and engaging, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. This helps us grow and provide you with even more quality content. Now, let's get back to the news on the financial markets and the latest updates. European economic data. Euro to US dollar rebounded after falling on Thursday and stabilized around 1.0950 early Friday. Germany's factory orders surprised the market with a 7% increase in June, beating expectations for a 2% contraction. UK economy. Pound sterling to US dollar touched its lowest level in over a month at 1.2622 on Thursday before recovering above 1.2700. The Bank of England, BOE, raised its policy rate by 25 basis points to 5.25% as expected. BOE Governor Andrew Bailey's comments during the post-meeting press conference contributed to the pound sterling's weakness against other currencies during European trading hours on Thursday. Australian economy. The Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA, lowered inflation and growth forecasts in its quarterly monetary policy statement, MPS, published on Friday. The RBA hinted that further tightening of policy could provide insurance against upside inflation risks. China's Commerce Ministry announced that the country will lift the anti-dumping and anti-subsidy tariff on barley imports from Australia, effective August 5. Following these developments, Australian dollar to US dollar edged higher and was last seen trading above 0.6550. Japanese economy. US dollar to Japanese yen turned south and lost nearly 100 pips on Thursday but still holds steady above 142.50 early Friday. Precious metals and cryptocurrencies. Despite the renewed weakness in the US dollar on Thursday, gold ounce per US dollar, gold, struggled to gain traction as the benchmark 10-year US Treasury bond yield continued to rise above 4.1%. Gold's price remained slightly above $1,930 in the European morning. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is holding steady above $29,000, trading in a narrow channel on Thursday, while Ethereum continues to fluctuate between $1,800 and $1,850. Some of the main moves in markets. Stocks. S&P 500 futures rose 0.5% as of 7 a.m. London time. The S&P 500 fell 0.3%. Nasdaq 100 futures rose 0.7%. The Nasdaq 100 fell 0.1%. Japan's Topix rose 0.2%. Australia's S&P/ASX 200 rose 0.1%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng rose 1.1%. The Shanghai Composite rose 0.7%. Euro Stoxx 50 futures rose 0.5%. Currencies. The Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index was little changed. The euro was little changed at $1.0951. The Japanese yen was little changed at 142.48 per dollar. The offshore yuan was little changed at 7.1868 per dollar. The Australian dollar rose 0.3% to $0.6571. The British pound rose 0.1% to $1.2724. Cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin fell 0.2% to $29,213.62. Ether fell 0.4% to $1,834.86. Bonds. The yield on 10-year treasuries was little changed at 4.17%. Japan's 10-year yield was little changed at 0.640%. Australia's 10-year yield advanced 8 basis points to 4.18%. Commodities. West Texas Intermediate crude rose 0.2% to $81.74 a barrel. Spot gold rose 0.1% to $1,936.30 an ounce. In conclusion, we'd like to thank you for watching Financial Insights today. If you enjoyed our insights and found the information helpful, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to our channel to stay updated with future analyses. Thank you again for your support, and we'll see you soon with more interesting news. Remember, the information in this video is purely informational and does not constitute investment advice. Always consult with a professional before making financial decisions.